Put the time in the coconut. It doesn't make it better. Hi everyone, I'm Jacob. I'm the Cowhat Librarian, and I've got an interesting one tonight. This is actually the second time I've borrowed this particular book from the local public library. My kids and I borrowed it a few months back. We read it a couple times, returned it, and that seemed to be the end of it. But on our most recent trip, my younger daughter grabbed it again. She wanted to reread this one, and it made me think that maybe it warranted a second look. And so, I'm happy to talk about Wake Me Up in 20 Coconuts by Laurie Keller. And it's kind of an interesting one. You see, these characters live in an enormous apartment building, and they're just known as their apartment numbers, 2C, 3A, and so on. Well, 2C, the blue person here, is kind of a know-it-all. He knows all the things. But his neighbor 2B asks him for a favor. Her clock is broke and she needs him to wake her up in 20 coconuts. And 2C agrees. Why wouldn't he? Seems like a reasonable request, except he quickly realizes that he has no idea what Wake Me Up in 20 Coconuts means. He tries everything. He asks his neighbors what's up and whether they heard it the same way he does. He tries to research on his phone. He tries to wash his brain, and he does not understand. He has to admit that he does not know, and it's shameful and horrifying because he's from a family of people who just know all the things. And he blows up. And inadvertently wakes up his neighbor 2B. She's thrilled because 2C woke her up with perfect timing in exactly 20 coconuts. It was interesting. It was fun. The basic premise was interesting, and telling kids that a character is asking another character to wake them up in 20 minutes is well worth a laugh. The art style is different. It was very appealing to read in a one-on-one or one-on-two situation with my kids up close. I don't think it would work quite as well at a story time where there's a larger distance between the reader and the viewers, and some of the small details of the faces and other things would get lost. Some of the illustrations focusing on the whole building are fun, but it's a little bit hard to go back and forth between all the different things. And it's a fun art style, but it gets a little chaotic. It fits well with the tone of the story, but as I said, it might not be great for story time, unfortunately. Still, it was quite good, and I do recommend it. With that said, there are spoilers ahead because I have to talk about the deal breaker. The deal breaker is simply this. 2C admits that he doesn't know what 20 coconuts means. The neighbors can't believe it. And 2B says that she'll help. She'll help him understand what 20 coconuts is. And he feels really, really good about things. And then he leaves to say, well, hey, I've got to be somewhere in 11 bananas. And she can't believe it. Did he say he had to be there somewhere in 11 bananas? And the whole apartment building sort of starts laughing at the idea that he would tell time in bananas. And it ends with a note about how it's okay to say you don't know as long as you're willing to learn. And I didn't get that from this story. When no one else understands what bananas mean, when people are laughing at him for thinking of time in that way, when they think of it in terms of coconuts, this comes across as a not so well veiled story about a neurodiverse person surrounded by people who consider themselves to be neurotypical. 2C comes across as someone who memorizes lots of trivia, who has the answer to things, but clearly thinks in a very different way from the rest of them. They have no problem with coconut time. He does. He thinks of time and bananas. They won't touch it. They laugh at it. So when we get to that final page talking about brains and not knowing stuff and wanting to learn, it comes across as really, really false and misleading. This isn't a story about someone just not knowing and having a hard time believing it. It's a story about someone who's neurodiverse being surrounded by a bunch of neurotypical people who aren't giving him the time of day. In my opinion, this is a story about someone who is neurodiverse surrounded by a group of neurotypical people who can't believe that he thinks the way he does. And if that's what it was, I would say it was well told. It's a shame that last page about the brains destroys it. Still, this was a solid effort by Laurie Keller. I'm impressed that she did the writing and the illustrations for it. It's a little bit chaotic, the message is a little misleading, but it's a solid effort, and I look forward to seeing what else Laurie Keller comes up with next. Go borrow it from your local public library. While I'm on that topic, if you use and appreciate the services offered by your public library, why not take just a minute and tell the powers that be exactly that? Tell your mayor, tell a council member, tell an MP or an MLA that you use and appreciate the services offered by your local public library. We're at a time where some libraries are having trouble finding the sustainable funding they need to continue improving their programs, materials, and services. And a few good words in the right ears might make a world of difference. If by some chance you're a library staff member, don't forget, watching my videos counts as professional development time. With that, thanks for listening to me talk about this one. By all means, please like, please subscribe, and please check back and see what else I have to talk about from the Cowhat Library. Thank you. Bye now.